Yo, welcome to this episode of Music Money's at the Lab. I'm your host, Dame Carter, and today we got a legendary producer, string arranger, and owner of the studio, Mr. Larry Gold, one of the guys that gave Ryan Can Rip his first shot. Larry Gold is a staple of the Philly sound who bridged the gap with Gamble and Huff back in the 70s at Sigma Sound. With modern R&B, hip-hop, scoring, and string arranging for artists such as Brandy, Monica, The Roots, the Whitehead Brothers, Kanye West, and working with the likes of Rodney Jerkins, Justin Timberlake, Jill Scott, Bruno Mars, and Silk Sonic. Welcome everyone, Mr. Larry Gold.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine.
It's so good to see you. So let's dive right in. Let's take a look. You trained at Curtis, right?
Yeah.
What age was that? What age was that?
What age?
Yeah,
Young teenager.
Okay.
You know, maybe. I was still in high school.
Great.
Yep. I most of my formal education was obviously in Philadelphia,
Okay.
and you know, I studied with a lot of different people from probably the age of 8 through the age of 20, you know, or so, and then pursued other things.
Let's talk about Don Ronaldo and the Sigma Musicians.
I played with Don Ronaldo. I played with the great sound of Philadelphia for years. When it was starting out in its infancy in the 60s, right through when it sort of stopped being able to make a living for musicians about 1980 or 1979. So yeah, I spent a lot of my years playing the cello as well as arranging.
So you worked with Don Ronaldo and the Sigma Musicians, so...
Yeah, I did work with Don Ronaldo. He was Philadelphia's contractor for records. And I met him as a young boy, a young teenager. And I played the cello for him for years and years and years. And he introduced me to a lot of people. And yeah, I joined the union and I made a living as a cello player. And I met all of the formidable record people in the city of Philadelphia as a teenager, because that's primarily the way I started making my living, was playing on records. Okay. And one thing led to another. I started loving recording at the same time as I was playing my cello. They went hand in hand with me. You know, the record business, the music business, popular music, is of the generation that you're living in. And I've been a big party that I wanted to live in my generation and not be a historian of generations years ago, which is what classical music is. Which isn't bad. You know, you have to learn from somewhere, and I learned from them as well. I learned everything from them, but I wanted to make records. I wanted to be part of the young generation of making records, because the hippies, that's what they wanted. A lot of musicians, you know, that's what they wanted to do. Gotcha. And the record business and the popular music business was just taking hold of, you know, the Electric Factory and all the clubs, they were just opening up. There were always nightclubs and bars, but who wanted to play in nightclubs and bars? These were even little kids could go in there. It was underage. There was no drinking. You know, it was pretty good. You know, I got a chance to see all of the famous musicians of my generation. It was an exciting time.
Great. So tell us about the Gamble, Huff, and Tom Bell experience.
That was a long, many years experience of playing on their records. So it's hard to tell. I really learned how to make records from them and Sigma Sound, and all of that was one of my teachers, I would say. Okay. And my initial arranging was for Gamble and Huff, and some other some other groups out of Philadelphia. Sorry about the cough.
No, it's fine, no
You know.
problem. No problem. So, you also composed on Sesame Street.
I did. I worked. There was a period of my life when I did children's music, and that was a time when I put the cello aside and I actually was just writing songs, you know. But my daughter at that age was young. It was when my daughter was young till when she was like maybe 8 to 10 years old.
Okay.
So it was maybe 8 to 10 years I was doing it.
So, what was that experience like?
What?
What was that experience like?
It was good. It was good. You know, I mean, I was able to use my talents to create some things that generated a lot of royalties for me over the course of my life, which allowed me to build this place,
Okay.
which allowed me to not have to feel like I had to have a job, per se. Even back in the Gamble and Huff days, I didn't work every day. And some days I worked on my own music. But I worked for them enough days a week to be able to pay the bills.
Great. So you've current up to date, you've done a lot of string arrangings.
That's what I do. And that's what I've pretty much done since you were asking me the 70s. I grew up as part of the sound of Philadelphia and learned how to write from the older gentlemen that were involved in the arranging of the sound of Philadelphia. And in a way, they taught me, and I learned myself, and then I learned about gospel music. I learned about a lot of different things that weren't part of my vocabulary at that time, but became part of my vocabulary. And I work for everybody. I mean, over the course of my 40 years, I've worked for an awful lot of different people. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of artists. I've been lucky, you know. I try to do a good job. I spend a lot of time doing it. I'm here today working for someone, and I worked on one song for 4 hours, and I'm nowhere near finished, you know. So I'll come back tomorrow and work on it. And
So you must have been the most sought out string arranger out of Philadelphia or throughout the world.
no, I wouldn't. I don't go that crazy with my own life. Okay. I am very fortunate that I get phone calls still, and I always did get calls, and I did some nice records with people. You know, I think what happens is when you do some records that do real well, other people want to do that too. Other people, you know, I had a client call me a week ago who named a record that I did in 2000 or 2001, and they liked the ending of that record, so they wanted me to put some of that. I guess they grew up with the record and remembered it. So, you know, I'm pretty old-fashioned. You know, strings are an old-fashioned thing right now. Even when you do them on records, you know, especially with someone my age. You know, maybe younger people have a different slant. I'm not, you know, I listen, I try to listen to what they do, some of them. It doesn't sound like they have a different slant, you know, but I grew up in a time when the strings said a lot on records. So if when people come to me, I have a tendency of probably saying too much. So they do what they do.
Okay. So you've had some very talented, evolving artists out of Philadelphia that you worked with, like from Jill Scott, The Roots, the Whitehead Brothers, Justin Timberlake.
And McFadden Whitehead,
Yes.
Teddy Pendergrass.
Okay.
You know, I worked with a lot of people. I played for Patti LaBelle. I played for everybody. You know, I arranged for all of these people. And yeah, I had, you know, I mean, I think the Roots started having their success when they started coming around here too. You know, I think they had very good record prior, but I mean, I think you learn from each other. You know, I think that's part of what making a record is collaboration. I loved collaborating with them, and I loved collaborating with the Roots and with music and all the Philly artists. I mean, Fatina in Asia, and I mean, there's so many to even mention, really, in a way. And then all the people that moved to Philadelphia, like Marsha Ambrosius, what was the name of her group?
Floetry.
Right, Floetry. Yeah, and there was a lot of different people who came, and yeah, it was good. But there were a lot of talented people too. One of the things I know about making records is if you're going to make a record with a lot of musicians, it's a little different than a rap record. But if you're going to make a record, any kind of record, you need good people working with you. And the better they are, the better the record you're going to have. And there were a lot of good people working in the city, even in the, I always surrounded myself with the right talent because I knew I couldn't get a hit record without a fucking great singer. There's no way in the world. I mean, sure, every once in a while you can get something good out of somebody who wasn't as good, but that's not the everyday cake of this business.
That's correct.
The everyday cake of this business is people growing up loving people's voices and following them from album to album, from song to song, whether it be rap or singing or writing or that's what the fan base is. Right. That's what became the most valuable thing in this business is your fan base. So I mean, economically, that keeps you on the road. That keeps you, at this point, I don't even know how the sales go. I mean, they do say things are platinum, and I guess that means they got a lot of streams. And I've been making records my whole life since I was a teenager, and I have records that probably have billion streams, and I don't even know what for certain of the artists I've done records with, I'm sure that there's some that have 1 billion streams. I hope they made a lot of money from it. That's what I hope. I mean, because in the old days, if you sold 1 billion records, you went to the bank.
Right.
I mean, people like Usher and Justin Timberlake and Michael Jackson and some of the and what was that group at Outkast? I think Outkast did 10 million or something on that one album. I mean, that was big money. That was money. Ridiculous. No wonder you don't want to make another record.
Of course not. Of course not.
I mean, but the singing guys that did it, they were just trying to, like my old friend Gerald Levert. He had hits when he was a teenager, then he had hits when he was a young adult, and he liked playing for 3,000-5,000 people. He liked singing. That's what he was. That's who he was growing up. Everybody asked me, well, my wife will sometimes ask me something, and I'll say, some of these young people we work with, this is all they've done since they were little kids. It's what they were grew up to be.
Right.
I mean, someone like Amir Thompson, Questlove. I mean, that's what he was growing up to be, and Tariq, and Jill Scott, and I can go on and on and on.
Yeah, Ryan can rip. Yeah. So let's talk about you worked with Kanye.
I did. I did a couple of albums with Kanye. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. How was that working?
I didn't have much communication with him. He sent me the songs. He called me and told me how much he liked it. That I thought was a big up in a way. A very few times people even call. But this was in the days even before. I don't remember even interneting, conversing with people on those at that time. That way is that time. But I did. I did a couple of good records with Kanye that probably will outlast him and me both. And I've done some other good records with a lot of other people too, besides Kanye. So
Justin Timberlake, "Cry Me a River."
"Cry Me a River" was a good record. That's a good one.
Record.
And the "Sexy Back" album was a good album.
Right.
There were a lot of good songs on that. And he went on to make a lot of great records.
Yes.
I mean, the thing is if you get 3 or 4 years that I do work with these people, You know, I mean, that's a gift unto itself. You know, I can't expect to work with him for 10 years. You know, I think the new flavors and everything else comes about so easily now at this point that I think people always look for a little change.
Right.
You know, and I don't blame them.
There's one particular record I love to talk about.
Okay.
From the Whitehead Brothers on the Series album. You did the impeccable string arrangements on Beautiful Black Princess.
That's a nice record.
All time.
Yeah, that's a nice
favorite.
record.
How was that?
No,
did that
it
come
just,
about
I
with you and
mean,
Kenny?
well, I did that whole album with the kids.
That's correct.
And,
co-producer as well.
I think I got a co-producer when I was really the producer with Kenny, but I did that album. And they had that one song, and I wrote the string arrangement. Yeah, Kenny played the piano, and this was before you had computers, so we really, you know, we took our time, and I think it was just piano and strings and vocals. That's all. I don't even think, and I think we did it in a day practically. And I remember Kenny helped me with the string arrangement a little bit, which I think he really had a good time doing at that time in life. He was still a teenager.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was like maybe 18. He might not even
be just
been
coming out.
18.
Yeah, they were just coming out with that record, Serious, on that Serious album. They were just coming out then.
That was well, we had been making records since they were kids. They got signed by Kenny Gamble when they were both, well, Johnny might have been 13 and Kenny might have been 12. You know, in the 80s, there was a period of time in black music where the kids groups, I think it was the Jackson 5 really started it a little, the ball rolling a little bit. But, you know, everybody wanted to have a kid group. You know, so all the labels, if there were 8 labels, they all 8 of them wanted to have kid groups. So there were a lot of kid groups, and the Whitehead Brothers was one. There were a bunch of others I did it in those days too. You know, all through the 80s. And the 80s seemed to be before rap took over and before it took off, really. The 80s seemed to be a time when the young R&B was really very popular. The groups like
good music.
It was good music, yeah, but it was also they were teenagers.
Yes.
I mean, and to the point where even some of the early rap records, the big ones like Crisscross, how old were they?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they were young.
Kids, man.
You know, and even Jermaine Dupri. When Jermaine Dupri was hitting it out of the park, he was a kid. He was 13, 14 years old.
He was.
And Boyz II Men just were out of high school or just graduating high school. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the groups are like that. And Kenny and Johnny, the Whitehead Brothers, when I first started doing them, they were like 13, 14 years old, you know. And they got signed by Motown when Kenny was maybe 16 or 17.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, that album did good. You know, they never came back to me for the second album. Right. And I had built the studio after that. I got kicked out of the studio I was at because it was getting sold a few times. And it got sold a few times. And the new owner did not like pot smoke. So if you don't like pot smoke, then that's like saying you don't like me. So I was out of there very quickly thereafter. And I invited them when I built the studio to come, but it was more like the very beginning of the studio. I think Rodney Jerkins had an awful lot to do with really getting a big hit out of here first. You know, he came and he wasn't red hot yet, but he was getting red hot. Right. And he came and he sort of stayed. We opened in March or something, or in February or March, and he came in August, and he stayed for almost a year. And that sort of gave me that sort of got the studio off its feet. And I did a bunch of records with him at the time. Okay. and they were really successful records, #1 records.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I really think, and I think the Roots knew that The Boy Is Mine was, a lot of it was made here, not the vocals, but a lot of the instruments, you know, were done here and everything, and I think they knew that Rodney was coming here, and they figured if Rodney was using it, the studio, it must be pretty damn good. So I think that really helped elevate. A brand new studio got a major amount of respect. I mean, in the first year we had AC/DC and Tori Amos and Rodney Jerkins did you know, those hit records here, and I mean, just went on and on and on like that. Corrupt was here like almost like the first summer we were open. I think it was June or something, or you know, yeah. I mean, a lot of people gravitated here, and you know, poor R. Kelly. R. Kelly was here, was a fan from the first year practically. You know, he came to Philly. I think he came to play with the Sixers a little bit. I think he was like a big fan of Allen Iverson and that the basketball of that time a little bit.
Right.
And I think he came to work out with them if he could. And I think that what happened was he tried to go to Sigma, and he didn't like Sigma. Or maybe he didn't like the vibe. I don't know what the story was. But he showed up here on a Saturday, and he stayed for like months.
Really?
You know, months, yeah.
Wow, that's something new.
You know, I mean,
didn't
that's
know
the kind
that.
of clients you want. Right now, the young owners of the studio now, they're younger than me. They're in their 50s. But the young owners of the studio now, Uzi Vert comes and does that. I mean, he stayed like for 4 months one time. And another time, you know, he came back and he was here a couple of weeks ago. He was here for like 2 weeks.
Just working.
He just trying to get a hit, you know, trying to figure out, you know, that's what it is. You know, I mean, Rip will tell you, you know, it's like that's what it is. You know, it's like, if you write in the studio to a studio owner, that's like great. But most people write at home now with their own studios. So those days are over. Yeah. But in the early days when everyone was writing in the studio, shit, they could spend a whole week on 16 measures. I hate to say it, but I mean, to get it right and to go over it and over and over it again. You know, hey, look, I didn't say anything. I just loved it. But I'm not even going to mention names, but we had someone really super famous came to work on the Roots record to do 8 measures, okay? And it took a whole week in the A room.
The famous A room.
No, not famous A room. This famous rapper. I'm not mentioning anybody's name.
I don't.
But so to a studio owner, that's like a dream. You know, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like R. Kelly could have made 32 records in that week.
I'm sure.
I mean, it just shows you the difference. That's all. You know, poor dude. I mean, really talented. He went in the B room, and I came in one morning, and he had done 4 records in one night. They were brilliant. He was so inspired. You know, so, I mean, and that's part of what I love about this business is my old friend John Whitehead, you know, who rest in peace. He's like not around anymore, but he was that way, man. I mean, and Bunny Sigler's not around anymore, and these were the people that I grew up with that really showed me a lot about rhythm and blues. You know, I showed them about music and Europe and other things. And band, and you know, I came from the hippie days, you know, hippie things. So there was a meshing that went on in the 60s and the 70s. There was meshing that was going on. That's how you had a group like Sly Stone. I mean,
awesome group.
Yeah.
Awesome group.
Or somebody like Bill Withers.
Yes.
You know, one of the greatest singer-songwriters ever lived in life, ever. You know, I mean, and then but there was you nurtured talent. You got talents today, you know, and the breadth of the talent is like the business seems to be more of a narrow lane now, though.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you're either pop or you're this or you're that, and the R&B sort of, you really always needed a clever lyric to get by, and I think now you need it even more. Now I think the lyric is so important.
So what do you
Because
think
the
about
music,
shift?
I think, has a tendency to sound a lot the same.
So what about the shift in music today versus when you were?
I don't judge music today versus then, you know, because a lot of people that I work with they're making old records. They want to sound old, and they're making a living from sounding old. You know, that's part of the nature of this business, I guess. I mean, you take a group like Silk Sonic; they could have been in the '70s.
Right.
You know,
I was going to mention that.
yeah, they could have been in the '70s. You know, and they were just a few years ago, and they certainly won all the awards. People really love those old style songs.
You worked on that.
I worked on the album. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I worked on the album, but people love those old style songs, you know, and they do it so well it sounds new. And I think someone like Bruno, he does that a lot. He did New Jack Swing. He had cut #1 records from that old style and made them sound fresh.
How was it working with them?
I really like working with him.
Anderson.
You know, I really, you know, I think he's a good dude. You know, and I think, you know, he's a great singer, great writer. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I mean, I like working with everybody though, man. You know, I don't get to work one-on-one the same way I work with Bruno. That I'll say. And I don't think he'd mind me saying that. But a lot of artists, I'm working with their producers, but Bruno's his own producer and his own writer. So reminds me a lot of working with my old friends from the '70s. They were all, some of them were the artists and the writers and the producers, but generally I work for the producer.
Okay.
You know, I never meet the artist. I just did a young artist, right? You know, a 22-year-old artist. I didn't meet her. I met the producer who's doing the album for RCA. So that's that. But in the old days, I did meet a lot of talent because they came in here and I got a chance to see them and meet them. But these days, I don't.
So in your craft and your many years of experience, for young producers, what's the smartest way to get placement today?
See, there's where the questions get hard.
Okay.
You know, and I wouldn't recommend. I think that if you think you got something, you know, I think you partially what you need to do is throw it on the internet and see if you really have something and see if it gets popular. You know, I guess, I don't know. You know, I think that these big companies, the publishers and all these, I think they're all over TikTok and all over these things. They're looking for new ideas, new songs. And if they like something, they get in touch with you. It's like the old days. If you had a guitar and went out and played songs for a little bit, and people are, hey, he's a good songwriter. All of a sudden, all the record companies are interested. Well, this is a different game now. So now all the media companies are interested. And now you can become famous from being a personality on the internet, you know? I mean, what do you call those? You know, tastemakers and those, you know, all those words that, you know, that use now. So it's a whole different kind of fame. And it really is. But I think that if you're a good singer, you know, sing a song, get a piano player and get it on the internet and just, if people like it, you'll start getting fucking hits. You know, and if you get enough hits, do another song, then another one. You know, and you ain't doing it for the money, you're doing it to try to get an audience. Remember, we'll go back 20 minutes ago, I said, the most valuable thing to an artist isn't the audience. It's your fans.
Yeah, that core fan base.
You know, and I think that the media businesses knew that to the point where marketing became much more important than the music in a lot of ways. I'm not saying it really did, but I'm saying it did become as important in a way.
Yeah, talent meets marketing. That's where it all.
Say again?
Talent meets marketing. That's where we.
Well,
at right
yeah, but the thing is I think that really talent is just nurtured by itself.
now. Right.
You know, I think that the market will sometimes give the talent enough money to make their product. And then you have to pay that product back. You have to pay that, the whoever the business is, you have to pay that back. Absolutely. And then what is the payment? There are a lot of people that are bringing out their own product themselves, but I don't know, someone one time told me there are 10,000 new songs or so that come out every day. I don't know if that's true or whatever the case may be, but how do you stand out from the 10,000? You know, how do you separate yourself and say, well, I'm better, or I please be my fan, be a fan of mine? I really don't know. That's not my concern. My concern is growing old right now and doing as much as I possibly can before I get too sick or too wacky or too old to do it. You know, so and that's the deal.
Your legacy lives on. So
well,
I
don't know how much of a legacy I will truly have, but it's been a good ride. You know, and that's all I care about. You know, I care about the ride and my family. You know, they're okay. You know that. You know, I mean, Rip's known me for years. He'll tell you that that's the case. You know, I take things seriously, but that's just because I like things to be good. You know, I grew up ever since I was a little boy, thinking that I like things to sound good. I like things to feel good, and and those are all part of what popular music does.
Gotcha. If you can give us one thing that the new producers, engineers that are coming up today, what advice would you give them?
To learn at home, basically, because I think that the tools are there, or there's programs in the schools now where you can learn, you can get a little knowledge at the school and on schools levels by going to like the right middle school or the right, I don't know. See, that's why I don't want to give advice to kids if it's not there. But I seem to remember that there are a couple of schools that have studios in them in the city, right?
That's correct.
You can at home.
Or at home. But at home, you need a few bucks to be able to put something together.
Right.
You need to have a computer, then you have to have right. You have to have the ability to record audio to the computer. That all costs a little bit of money. If you're asking how kids get started, you can get any kind of computer. You can do beats. You can start doing stuff, right?
That's true.
So, I mean, that's how you get started. I don't know. I'm be the worst person to give advice. Okay?
I got a question.
Good.
In the background, if people can hear this question.
Ryan can rip. Take it over.
Do Larry Gold, one, still have your Sinclair?
Yeah.
Still running?
It's still running.
5-inch floppy disk.
Well, 5-inch, yeah. They're smaller than that.
Okay, all right, so you upgrade.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's been giving me a little bit of a hard time recently, but the thing is it's 42 years old.
Yeah. I remember he let me, you probably don't remember that, but I remember things like it was yesterday, right? He let me, because I had a Sonic EPS 16 Plus back in the day.
Right.
Right before the ASR came out. And I remember you let me work on the track with using a Sinclair. You showed me, look, Rip, I'm using your voice. Look, Rip, this is how you do it. See, this is the real thing right here. You know what I mean? I still remember the click tone to this Sinclair because it got almost like a unique click, metronome click.
Yeah, right.
You recording?
Right.
And those big ass 5-inch floppy disks.
Yeah.
So you might have upgraded. They got a 3.5, but
no, these were 5.5.
5.5. Yeah, the
Okay.
5.5.
Yeah, I still use them.
Yeah.
I still have two floppies. Yeah, it still works, still does it. Still,
Second question number 2. What was the name of that coffee that you used to? I think you used to have me go to the store to go grab. It came in a paper bag kind of container.
I don't remember that name.
Listen, you don't remember?
It was. Wasn't it Spanish Puerto Rican coffee?
I don't. Whatever it was like some of the best coffee. And you used to put it in the refrigerator. And to this day, I put my coffee in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
I store my coffee in the refrigerator.
Right.
See how you became
Now I
mentor?
buy La Colombe cold coffee. Have you ever La Colombe cold coffee? Black.
Nah.
It's strong. It's good. They sell them in cans.
Oh, okay.
I don't even make coffee anymore.
Man, of course, I'm not working here no more.
Coffee runner.
I don't know. Oh, I remember the bag though now. Paper bag. That was Old City. That was a coffee shop we went to.
Old City, yeah.
That's right. Old City Coffee. And they were at the Reading Terminal too. They had a place in Reading Terminal.
Hey everyone, if you're enjoying Music Mondays at the Lab, go ahead and smash that like button, share it, and hit subscribe so you never miss a beat.